Wow. Okay, so I'm back here at the cemetery. I'm at Sunset Knolls Cemetery here in Ramseur, North Carolina, and I finally found my George Marvin Smith, the dear friend of my mother and father-in-law who never had children of his own. I don't believe ever was married, and left a lot of special things behind for my mother and father-in-law that we found once we moved back here with my mother-in-law. Wow, George. I'm very grateful for actually my relative Patricia Hughes, who helped me find you today, George, by showing me that what I needed to look for was the main headstone here for you. And so as I drove through the cemetery today, after going to City Council several weeks ago and unable to find you, it was Patricia Hughes who helped me to look for this very headstone right here. And lo and behold, I found you, George. George. I'm so excited to be here today to visit with you and to chat with you about life itself. A lot going on in my life, George. And I know that, well, everybody at the cemetery who's laid to rest enjoys good company. So, well, I'm no longer naive either, looking at these headstones and knowing, I learned my lesson that North Carolina grounds are much harder and don't absorb the water. And here's another flat-laying headstone of Mr. George Marvin Smith, who's going to need a trench dug. So it's not about time with me, but it's all about time, if that makes sense. It's not about looking at a clock, it's about just doing what we want to do and what we are led to do. And I am so grateful to be here today, George. With this big introduction, I'm going to say your name, George Marvin Smith, son of Walter E. and Baptiste M. Smith, born January 25th, 1903. George, you transitioned into heaven on August 6th, 1979. I was just 5 years old at that point. George, I know you've been waiting for me, so I'm here. I'm here, yay! I'm really excited. It's not about wondering what people think. I'm excited to be here. And you are a long-awaited headstone of mine that I want to see. So let me get started, George, on digging this little trench for you. We're gonna do it right. Looky here, it's already all starting off so beautifully. I just want to also start off, George, before I start talking about my own life. I want to say how much I've enjoyed hearing about your life without ever knowing you. The stories that Chris and Lisa and Pansy have shared with me over the past couple of months since we moved back have really brought joy to my soul, to my mind, to my being, to hear that you were such a good person, George. So good to JC and Pansy, and vice versa. JC and Pansy were so good to you. And that special piece that you left behind, that you gifted to JC and Pansy many years ago, the fertilizer cedar that was built in 1909, we're getting ready to bring that to the front of our property, George. And I'm gonna fill it with mums and bales of hay around it, and we're just gonna make it a really pretty focal point of our beautiful homestead. George. That table also, the table you left behind in the back of JC's barn, this old farm table. Well, I'll tell you this much, my lambs love that table. They jump up on it. They have fun on it. And I love seeing them have fun. So I had somebody reply to one of my headstone cleanings recently, and they said, well, the first thing they said is you do a really good job. And the second thing they said is you shouldn't wear dresses while cleaning headstones. It's inappropriate. I at first took that message, I don't know, offensively, defensively. And then I took a step back and realized I don't need to worry about what others think. I upload all of my videos of headstone cleanings to my YouTube channel and even TikTok. And I guess the way I think of it is you either watch it because you want to or you don't. Nobody's making you watch it. But one of the biggest reasons I love cleaning headstones is because souls never interrupt me and never judge. So I know that being judged by life itself is something we will always all go through. But the awakening moment is when you realize it doesn't matter what others think of you or say of you, especially when they don't even know you. So at least this, thank you, George. I was gonna say, at least this brown's coming up nicer. Thank you, George. George, thank you for your life. I do hope you're resting and enjoying heaven and all of the benefits of being an angel. You just can't know. You can't know heaven. But we all can envision it if we choose to, in the ways that we do. So if you remember, George, my last headstone was a disaster. I went home crying and had to go back the next day to fix the mistakes that I made. And that mistake was not knowing. So it wasn't really a mistake. It was not knowing that the ground here in North Carolina is much different than the sandy grounds in Florida, where I've cleaned over 800 headstones, dug many trenches. George. So much going on in my life. I almost didn't come today, even though I love to make Tuesdays my cemetery day. I almost didn't come because there's so much going on. I thought, well, I can go to the cemetery another day. And then I said to myself, no. There's no day like today. And I'm going to the cemetery today. It's not only where I find peace, George. I'm finding great peace with you today because I'm so excited that I found you. Literally. I looked and looked and looked right after we first moved here a few months ago. And I couldn't find you. And I went to city council, the church. Nobody could help me find you, and so I walked away and found some other headstones to clean. So, lesson learned, the trench is absolutely vital to a good headstone cleaning. As well as, once you're done with the cleaning, you gotta put all the dirt back nice and neat, not leave it all thrown around the headstone so it looks like perhaps somebody tried to rob a grave instead of clean a grave, right? But that's just it with headstone cleanings is, well, there's nobody here telling me what to do, which means I'll figure it out on my own. And that's what life is about, George. It's figuring life out on our own. So, where do I begin with my family? What's going on right now, George? And you are George to me. You're not Mr. Smith. We've already got a little soul connection going on here, George. My mother had a heart attack about a couple months ago. A silent heart attack. And long story short, George, they basically told my mom to go home and be close to family. They said her heart was black. They couldn't blast out the cemented arteries. And they basically gave her no hope as well as no prognosis, which I said was a good thing. I don't believe in prognoses. How awful to be told you have 2 weeks to live or something like that, and then you end up living for 8 more months. Some things, going along with my whole writing this book of cliches, some things are better off left unsaid. So we got my mom back home to Maryland from the beach and got her connected with a new doctor there who actually says this is his specialty. He says this is what I do. Exactly what the Myrtle Beach doctors said they couldn't do. So hello, prayer works. And George, what I remind people of is that a prayer is just a thought. It's just a thought. So however you want to think of it, when you think good things happen. And yet at the same time, we all still do die, and that's what doesn't make sense to us. Why does somebody good have to die? Oh, they were only 80 or only 12 or only a newborn. I still can't make sense of that. But I do live and believe the notions that everything happens for a reason. And I do believe we all have our own blueprints that we are born with. God knows how we're gonna die. We can't know. All right, this is a nice trench. George. So my mom's back home. My dad actually went in. My dad is 82 years old. My mom is 80 years old. Neither of them have had any serious health issues their whole life. My dad just had surgery on his Achilles tendon that tore. And here we are waiting to hear back from the cardiologist for my mom. And my dad was waiting to go to rehab, a facility to help him with recovering from the surgery. And he just found out this morning that he has COVID. COVID. I thought those days were gone. What in the heck? And in a hospital. Dear Lord. So now he's not allowed to have visitors, number one, my dad. And number two, they won't transfer him to a rehab facility because he has COVID. And what they're thinking is they're just gonna send him home today after this massive surgery. My mom, bless her heart, literally bless my mom's heart, God. And George, she's not feeling well. She had a heart attack. Her Main LAD artery is 100% cemented, blocked. 2 of our other arteries are greatly blocked. And she has congestive heart failure, and she's not feeling good. And she's dizzy, and she's falling, and she has to use a cane now. I mean, come on. My mom was like the most active person I've ever known in my life. This is all so much for my mom, as well as us, her family. But what I've also seen, George, well, look at us. Why are we here right now? Why did we move from Florida to North Carolina? We moved here so we could, it's not necessarily take care of my mother-in-law, Pansy, but so we could be here, so that she won't have to ever leave her home and go into some sort of assisted living facility. We literally moved our family and our farm here to start a new life and to carry on a good life. And now I find myself going, but what about my mom? I want to move in with my mom. And I can't. Now, down the road at some point, I'm sure my mom could move in with us. That's not an option right now. And so, right before I came here today, George, when I talked to my mom, she said, can you please come up? And I said, Mom, that's all I've been waiting for, is to hear you ask me. I've been telling you all this time, I can come whenever you want. So, so grateful to be able to have this life here with my family and farm, and yet also be able to leave the farm knowing that the farm will be in good hands with my husband and my daughter. Okay, whoa, these letters are like super, super dirty. Which, as you know, George, you saw me, I'm sure, in spirit cleaning your old fertilizer seeder that we found. It's supposed to be drawn by horse, 2 horses, I think. Massive piece of farm equipment. You saw me hand cleaning it with Murphy's oil and even olive oil. And now we're getting ready to display that beautiful piece for the world to see, the world of Highway 64. So I gotta be careful with the water, even though I did a nice trench. I can't get crazy pouring a lot of water here. And by the way, I would have worn a dress today, but it was cold this morning when I got dressed. Everybody has their own opinions in life, and that's okay to speak their minds too, but when you judge somebody, like saying, oh, you're doing a good job, but it's inappropriate for you to wear a dress while you're cleaning headstones, like, why even say that? Why even say that? Why say anything at all at that point? It's not like I have some huge following of people that watch me cleaning headstones, but I have for many years uploaded my videos mainly for myself so that I can delete them from my phone and keep storage space on my phone freed up. For everything in life, I love to video, George. I love to video it all. Animals, nature, family, farm, creek and the bridge. I'm all about sharing my life's joys. Man, this, George, this is dirty, dirty. very hardly caked on here. My solution is water with Dawn, and yes, a little bit of bleach. Judge me if you must. But more importantly, when you go to judge somebody, you should really take a step back and realize that there's really only one judge in this world, in this life. And it's not any of us here, that's for sure. So when you know you're a good person, and you know you're doing good things, and you're sharing your life in beautiful ways, you really do need to learn to let everything else slide off